Welcome to the Inspiration North podcasts, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, how and why to be a SuperConnector with Paul Lancaster. We talk about the ingredients you need to create a vibrant community, the 3 types of people required to make your idea a success, and how taking action opens doors.
Paul Lancaster is an award-winning SuperConnector, helping to start and grow businesses in the northeast of England. After spending over 15 years helping other people start and grow their businesses in the northeast and across the UK, whilst working for Generator, Project Northeast, Shell LiveWIRE, Sage and Tech North, which is part of Tech City UK and now Tech Nation, Paul launched his own planned digital business in 2016 to focus on making Newcastle and the wider northeast of England the best place to start and grow a business in the UK. He is the founder and event producer of the annual 5-day Newcastle Startup Week, which starts this year on 13th of May, and 1-day Newcastle Scaleup Summit, which he uses as a platform for inspiring and supporting more people to start and grow their business in the northeast of England.
Thanks for joining us, Paul, today. We've all got our hot beverages set up, and why not kick us off and tell us what is it you do now?
Yeah, okay. Thanks for inviting me in. So I'm Paul Lancaster. I'm the founder and director of a company called Plan Digital. But also, a lot of people might know me as Lord Lancaster on Twitter. Pretty active, pretty prolific on social media, particularly Twitter. Also the founder and organizer of the 5-day Newcastle Startup Week Festival, which happens in May. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I basically spent 15 plus years helping people start and grow their own businesses, not just in the northeast, but across the UK. I work for everyone. I've worked for corporate. I've worked for Sage and British Airways. Worked for Sage twice. I've worked for not-for-profits, social enterprises for 9 years. I worked for Generator. I work for Project Northeast. I work for Shell LiveWIRE, which is a youth enterprise scheme. I work for the government as well. I work for Tech North, which is part of Tech City, now Tech Nation. And then finally started my own business almost 3 years ago. And just do anything and everything I can to try and help people start and grow a business or a project or bring their ideas to life and leverage my network. I've built up a pretty good network online and offline, so try to use that to help the people around me.
Is that, for starting up your own business or helping others set up businesses, is that something that came to you quite early on when you sort of look, we always talk about Steve Jobs' quote of looking back, connecting the dots. Is there anything from growing up, influences in the family or that made you think I'm an entrepreneur, or is that something that's
so there's no one in my family who ran their own business. My sister actually runs her own nursery. So she's the first one that I've known in our business to do that. But no, I think I've always been interested in people and the way things work and how things fit together. So it's easy to say when you look back. Like I think I've always had pretty good empathy. I'm pretty empathic. I think that's a word. And I like to help. I like to fix problems. And then when I went to university, I studied geography.
Interesting subject.
I love geography. I just studied geography just because that was my favourite subject. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't want to stay in academia. I just enjoyed that subject. But actually, geography, again, that subject is all about learning about the world and how everything fits together and how it all, So I can understand why I've done that. You know what I mean? And then basically did the usual thing, trying to get a graduate training job, trying to graduate recruitment, up and down the country, going for interviews, getting quite fed up because I was getting to the final stage and not getting the final job. And then my dad, who's an accountant, actually, he said, "Have you heard of a company called Sage? They're just round the corner, and they've got a big recruitment day. Why don't you go along?" So I was like, "All right, okay, I'll go along." So I went, did the assessments day, passed that, and then got a job as it wasn't a graduate training job. It was just anybody could do the job, but it was a tech support role. And again, so it was basically on the phones, on the help desk, fixing problems. So it wasn't just kind of take your meter reading. It was like actually using your brain. People were ringing up with quite complicated tax and payroll issues. And then it was down to us to not only tell them how to use the product, how to use the software, but you'd have people ringing up with really, they'd usually be ringing up at the end of the tether. They'd been, some people close to tears, and they're ringing up like last ditch attempt, and then you would fix the problem and take it all. And I really enjoyed that sort of thing. So, and Sage actually is a fantastic company. The training that I got there, particularly in customer service, was excellent, and it was a good job. It was good pay. It was Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. So I learned a lot from that role, which carried forward into everything I've done since. But after 2 years of doing that, at the end of the day, you're on the phones, and although you could get promotion, you were just on the phones, just getting paid a little bit more responsibility, and kind of right. So after 2 years of doing that, I thought, right, okay, this isn't me. I want to do something else. So this thing called the web was starting to become quite a big thing.
What year are we talking about now, Paul?
Well, 98 to 2000. So it's like, it sounds like you're talking about the dog ages or something. But I mean, even
web. Before Google.
But even so I was on the help desk doing payroll tech support, and then there was a little team that was sat next to us, and Sage used to do, they used to offer low-cost websites for businesses. So they had a team where you would pay 100 quid, 200 quid, and the Sage team would build like a really basic 1, 2, 3 page website, right? So I would look at them thinking, well, that's really cool. That's cooler than what I'm doing. But I couldn't find a way to get from where I was onto there, because that was useful doing what I was doing. And I was like, well, how do I do that? So I started teaching myself basic web design in my spare time. And then got a job at British Airways as a graduate trainee web developer in Newcastle. So again, great job, fantastic training, but I realised very quickly I'm not a very good web developer. My brain doesn't work that way. Like I'm not. My brain isn't very logical. It's a bit too all over the shop, which is a strength and a weakness, right? So basically, you get on the programs and you're on every training course, and then they would say, well, you're better suited to this, or you're better suited to that. So I joined what they call the QA team, quality assurance team. So back then, 2000, basically anyone in the world in British Airways would do a website for their country, and then they would send it in to us to check it, to check that the code was correct, that it looked okay. But you'd have like, everyone would have a different style. There was no one British Airways style. So that was interesting, because I liked, again, I'm quite good at spotting mistakes and sort of fixing things, and I like the ability that you could just make a change and then instantly see a difference. So I like that we had the power to make the code change, and if it looked all right and it worked fine, we would publish it. So that was pretty cool.
See the results of your work.
So basically I became like, everything I'm doing now is like content. So I became good at copywriting, so written content, visual, images, videos. So I became like a web editor rather than a web developer. And that was the beginning of the taste of marketing and comms, and that I've done ever since, really. So did that for about 11 months, and then 9/11 happened. I don't know, terrible, especially when I worked for an airline. And basically, they just sacked about 200 people pretty much overnight. And it was like, last one in, first one out, cash is king, all that sort of stuff. So those two experiences, Sage was great in one respect, but actually I'm not a corporate guy. I didn't fit in that. Like, I asked too many questions and was like, I didn't like being told you can't do things, or like, and even I remember loads of times they'll be like, Paul, you're really good at what you do. You're so helpful, but you're actually too helpful. You're fixing people's problems too much. And I'm like, well, that's the point, isn't it? They're like, no, give them a little bit of help, then get rid of them. And if they ring back, that's fine. And I was like, but surely it's better to just like fix the problem in one go. And then they never come back. But they're like, no, because your call times are too high. And I was like, yeah, but I'm fixing the problem. They're gonna anyway. So that it just didn't make sense to me. So and then that and British Airways, I realised you're just a small cog in a very big machine. You're very disposable, and I thought I want somewhere where I can have a bigger impact on the organisation. But I'm rambling a bit here. Feel free to step in. But basically, I've always been really into music as well. I was always the kid at school that had the records before anyone else, and I had a encyclopedic knowledge of the record label and the video and the production credits and stuff like that. So I was like a bedroom DJ at first. Then when I went to university, I started DJing fashion shows and some little club nights and stuff. And then came back home from Leeds and started getting in with a group of DJs and producers locally. Started DJing at a place called Egypt Cottage, which used to be where the old Tyne Tees television used to be on City Road. Used to do like Sunday afternoon into night, kind of little mini rave sort of thing. I was really into rave scene anyway, and acid house and all that sort of like music's massive for me. And then again, we might come back to that. But basically, started DJing more regularly and started producing my own records. And I got my first record signed just before I got made redundant from British Airways. So I was like, it's all right. I'm going to be an international superstar DJ. That's fine. I'm not bothered. So I basically said to my parents, who are very understanding, I said, I'm not even going to look for another job. This is it. I'm just going to focus on this. So for the next 12 months, I signed on the dole, just making music, producing records, remixing records, DJing all around the world. I've DJed in like Rome, Malta, Sacramento, Washington DC, Seoul, South Korea, Budapest, Prague, London, all over, having an amazing time, but then signing on the dole. So it was like, again, like
gotta get back in 2 weeks.
It's like a weird situation where this weird double life where you're signing on and they're like, well, what jobs are you looking for today? Well, none, because I'm a DJ producer. All right, just sign the form, just get out.
Go away.
But then you would have to sign off the dole if you left the country.
Oh my gosh.
So like every week or every 2 weeks, I was having to sign on and off just to like keep getting the 50 quid or something. And then so did that for 12 months. Amazing. It was always a dream to have records produced and released. So I used to be able to go into HMV on Northumberland Street and see my records in the shelves.
Wow.
That's brilliant.
And amazing experience. So critically acclaimed, commercially not that successful, right? But doing it for the love and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I was a DJ producer. Did my own club nights. Had my own little record label as well. So I learned a lot about social media marketing, discussion forums. That was a big thing back then of how you could tap into different communities. So pretty much every gig that I got in another country came through a discussion forum. So that opened my eyes to the opportunities and potentials of social media, I suppose, of like anybody, you're just like one click or one message away from certain people.
You say that all the time, James.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
So we say how small the world is, and then you get on LinkedIn or somewhere or another platform, and you think, oh, you know so and so, I went to school together, or I worked with their sister, or their auntie used to look after us when we were kids, or something. Wow. Yeah,
exactly. Well, that's what life is, isn't it? And then I think music as well is a really powerful thing. Like you can have people from all walks of life, but if they've got a shared interest in a certain type of music, or a certain band or artist, then you're mates. Do you know what I mean? Same with film, that's cultural things like that.
Crosses all the boundaries, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And again, music, like for me, the reason, I like every type of music. I'm a massive fan of every genre, literally every genre. But
even the Spice Girls.
Like, there's a lot of Spice Girls.
Love the Spice Girls.
Love the Spice. Loved everything. But most of my money was spent on dance music. So I've basically got the history of dance music from the late 80s to the kind of 2013, I suppose. It was like every sort of subgenre of dance music. But what really appealed to me when I used to go to like some raves and stuff when I was about 14, 15. But I used to listen to pirate radio as well, and the music and the vibe and everything I read about was that idea of bringing people together, that we're all in this together, this like happy vibe, this of positivity, and the music's the uniting force sort of thing. And then when I was DJing, that's what appealed to me as well, that like you have the ability to control the mood. You can influence whether people have a great night or a terrible night. So so that was really exciting for me, that when you're DJing, you're reading the crowd and you're seeing, all right, okay, they're having a great time, right? Like, let's see if we can spread that as a ripple around the. I love all that sort of stuff. So and even the events Startup Week, I try to approach that a bit like a DJ set. So the flow of speakers is kind of like the ebb and flow. I try to take people on a bit of a journey each day and across the week. So anyway, we're only up to that bit, and then So after 12 months of being totally skint, I just thought, all right, I need a job. So I got a job at Generator, which is at the time was just a music development agency. So it was all about helping people get into the music industry. Perfect, not for profit, social enterprise. Love what they're doing because it was giving free help and advice, signposting, educating people on the music industry. I was learning as well on the job, as I was learning about the music industry, but helping people as well. And then in my spare time, I was DJing, making music, record label, club nights. So it was just perfect fit. But did that for about 2.5 years, and then moved literally around the corner to an organisation called Project Northeast, which is a local enterprise agency. And the reason I joined there was, I thought I was only working part-time for Generator, skint, and thinking it's a shame that I'm not using any of my kind of web skills that I learned. I wanted to get back into that sort of thing. So P&E had a website called voluntaryskills.com, and it was all about upskilling volunteers and third sector organisations. And the role was being the website manager, doing all the marketing, all the promotion, all the social media, all the PR, all the networking. And that was great for me because I could really kind of try things out and be quite experimental with stuff whilst helping people at the same time. Did that for a few years. And
There's
then
a theme coming. There's a few years and a few years and a few years.
Yeah. Well, so I did that for 2-3 years. And so I did that for a few years, and then I did a sideways move within the same organisation, and I started working for Shell LiveWIRE, which is a youth enterprise scheme funded by Shell, the petrol company. And that was my where I kind of caught the bug of entrepreneurship, because I was already being quite entrepreneurial, but without kind of thinking it that way. But that was basically helping 16 to 30-year-olds, what they class young entrepreneurs, 16 to 30, and the job was really broad. It was like managing the website, keeping that up to date, doing everything, copywriting, all the imagery, all the videos, everything. They had a discussion forum, so people would post questions on there, and it would be my job to answer the questions and signpost them to other places. They had their own little social network before Facebook, so you have your own little thing there. A lot of social media, obviously, PR, networking, and it was a UK-wide thing. So I was based in Gateshead, but it was UK-wide, travelling all around the country, giving help and advice, but also giving out money as well. So we used to give out 4 cash prizes of £1,000 every month, called they were called the Grand Ideas Awards, because it's a grand, right? Clever.
Did you come up with that one? Or?
It was my boss, actually. I can't take credit for that, but yeah, really good. And then they had one prize of £10,000, the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. So absolutely loved that. Did that for 3 years, and really, really got the bug for entrepreneurs. When you're hanging out with entrepreneurs, you can't help it, I don't think. And so that was when I was thinking, well, at some point I'm going to do my own thing, but I don't know what that is yet. And then round about that time, because I was travelling a lot across the country, I was going down to London quite a bit and seeing the kind of the growth in the tech startup scene. This is around about 2011. And I thought, well, why can't we have a bit of that back in Newcastle? Because you've got Shoreditch, Old Street Roundabout stuff. And basically the ingredients they have is low cost office space, connectivity, like great public transport, and obviously marketing, PR, government endorsements, and money, right? So I thought, well, okay, we can't obviously have it at that scale, but with P&E owns all the buildings on Pink Lane.
Okay.
Right, I don't know if you know that. If you come out the train station, you've got Greggs and Subway. You walk up Pink Lane, all of those buildings on your right-hand side, P&E owns them.
Okay.
The one directly behind Greggs, they used to rent that, but they used to own it, but they've given it back to someone else. But everything else is all theirs, and then the alleyway through along the side of the Fourth Hotel is
Mhm.
theirs, and then Adams and House as well. On the other side is all theirs,
Uh-huh.
right? So P&E since the 80s has been doing like low cost, easy in, easy out workspace,
Mhm.
free business startup advice, coaching, training,
Mhm.
giving away little bits of money, doing so many amazing things before anyone else was doing it, right? But there's an old post office on Pink Lane which was empty at the time,
Mhm.
and I'd started going to some networking events. There was one called Super Mondays, which is basically, as the name suggests, once a month, I think it was, on a Monday night at the University, Newcastle Uni, and it was a bunch of geeks basically just talking about technology. Most of it was totally over my head, but some of it was more the business sort of marketing, and which is more my thing.
Mhm.
But what they were saying was, look, this is great, but we want our own kind of like splinter groups. So the PHP developers wanted their own thing, the JavaScript developers wanted their own thing, you know. And they were meeting up in like cafes, bars, basements, someone's front room, like, but there was no regular home for it.
Mhm.
And then I had the post office, which was stood empty. So I persuaded the directors to give me the keys, and I said, look, I'm going to open the doors up every Tuesday night voluntarily. Don't worry about it, just give me the keys. So basically I just invited them all in. So for about a year and a bit, call it post office, because it was a post office, but it was after work post office.
Oh, right.
And it was the future.
Well,
I'm pretty good at branding and marketing. So
Loving it.
post office, like one word, after work, and in the future of work. So it was like people coming together. Literally, I would go in, open the doors, turn the light on, let them in. I would sit at the back of the room most of the time, not knowing what the hell they were talking about. And then they would leave, go to the pub. I would turn the lights off, lock up, and sometimes I would just go home.
Yep.
And sometimes I would join them in the pub. I did that for a year and a half.
Mm.
And then it was every Tuesday night, a different group, sometimes a Wednesday and a Thursday as well. And that became known as like the hub of tech and digital in Newcastle. And then that was basically a precursor for Campus North. So the people that were hanging around there, we were doing free meetups every week. Then we started doing some co-working, hot desk and co-working in there during the day, once a month. And then Ignite, which is the accelerator program, they started, and they were looking for a home. So we put them in the loft in the same building. So then you got that cluster effect. I was really into the idea of clustering. So you got train station, buses, everything's within walking distance. You got the metro,
Coffee shop.
you got great coffee shop on the corner.
Yep.
Loads of, because these are all the ingredients that you need to have a vibrant kind of startup scene and like community. And then so you had low cost workspace, an accelerator program, meetups, hot desk and co-working, coffee shop, all in that tiny like space. And then I got a job at Sage. And basically I was really reluctant at first, but basically I got a couple of people got in touch and said, look, there's a job here, we think you'd be really good at it. And what the job was, Sage again is an amazing company, but they were really struggling to engage with freelancers, micro business owners, startups. And that's what I was good at. I've been doing that. So there were Sage is, like I say, great company, makes loads of money, really good at upselling and cross-selling to existing companies or companies at a certain stage. But the feedback they were getting was that a lot of startups, freelancers, micro business were saying, well, Sage is too big, too expensive, too corporate, not for us sort of thing. So they brought out a product called Sage One, which was meant to be for them. And it was struggling. Like after 2 years, they only had 6,000 paying customers, and they've got millions of customers using the more traditional products. So my job was to try and help them engage with that community of smaller businesses. And because I'm really passionate about the Northeast, I was like, well, you need success at every level, not just startups. You need your big companies to be successful as well. Because if they're not, then that's bad for the region and all the people who work there. So and also Sage, people were like, everyone always talks about Sage as this great success story, but we never see anyone from Sage come to any events. They're just out there on the edge of town. They don't have any involvement in what's going on. So I was like, right, okay, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to try and do two things. One is to help them make Sage 1 successful, and the other is to get them more involved locally. So that's what I did. So me and a few people joined them, and we grew the number of customers from 6,000 to over 100,000 in 2.5 years. So 100,000 people paying £15 a month. It's quite a lot of money. But I didn't just see it as making Sage more success. It's like we're helping 100,000 businesses manage their money better and manage their business better. So that was always my thing.
Knock-on effect, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I persuaded Sage to put money into Campus North. So they were their headline sponsor and turn up at events and sponsor events and do mentoring and stuff like that. So they got really into it. So I'm not saying it's all down to me, but they weren't really interested at all in doing anything locally, regionally. Because when I first went in, I was saying all this, I was like, it should be like ripples in a pond. It should be like everyone in the area should be really proud that you're here. They should want to work with you. They should want to work for you. But at the minute, they're not. People don't love you the way they should. And they were saying, well, why? It doesn't matter. We're a global company. Why does that matter? But no, you need that. You need that. Like I think they'd forgotten their roots, and then they've rediscovered that. They have rediscovered that definitely, and they're doing loads of great stuff. But so after, and also I wanted to test myself in a commercial environment as well, because I thought I was good at community building and social media marketing, but never had to do it for a commercial reason. It was just like with Shell LiveWIRE, here's a budget, spend the budget, basically make us look good, doing good things. And I was like, fine, okay, like Robin Hood, I'll take the money from the rich and give to the poor. That was my sort of thing. So that was what appealed to me. And but as long as the sort of stats, the vanity metrics were going up, everyone was happy. Do you know what I mean? But like I was like, well, I want to try and see, okay, here's some targets. Can we hit these targets? Can we hit? And I'd really tested myself in that environment. And again, we've talked about this before, being that when they brought me in, I actually said to them, I don't think I'm going to fit in, and I don't think I'm going to even like working for you. But if this is what you want, I can give it to you. So I went in with not arrogance, but like confidence, like I can give you what you want, but you have to let me do it.
Let you play.
Yeah. So at first they were like come in, be disruptive, shake the tree, be the innovator. And I was like,
push pineapple.
Yeah. So I was like, right, okay, if you want that, I'm going to give it to you. Okay. And so we did that. And then sure enough, it was like, whoa, hang on, what are you doing? That's not the way we do things around here. I was like, yeah. So I was like, exactly, that's why we're doing it. So for a few months when I first started, I was probably in a weekly conversation or a meeting where I was like, what are you doing? That's not the way. And I was like, but look, it's working. The figures are going up, the sales are going up, the feedback's great, everyone's happy, we're not breaking the company sort of thing. So
you're doing the right thing as well.
Well, it's like what Sam Conniff talks about, being causing the good trouble. Yeah. Because like they told me that's what they wanted to do. All the like briefings, the all hands briefings that the CEO and the managing director was given was saying, we want to move faster, we want to be more disruptive, and I was like, so I'm hearing that, and I'm like, well, okay, let's do it. And what you find, I think, with a lot of big companies is it is the middle management that's the problem, because they're very good at just rinse and repeat, just like doing things where it's like, okay, this works, just keep doing it, right? And that is why corporates, enterprise level companies are good at what they do. But then they kind of forget how to be innovative, because they're just doing this,
stagnates,
yeah.
Isn't it?
And then before they know it, the upstarts, the competitors, scrappy startups are coming along and they're eating away at the market, and that's exactly what happened with Sage. So they were like, bloody hell, like, how do we fight back? We don't know what to do. So so I think that we were like the startup within a corporate, kind of like the younger, cooler punk rock brother of Sage. That's how we thought of ourselves. So yeah, that was exciting. That's like, can we do this? And and then I left that after 3 years because I thought we've done what I set out to do. sales are up. They're getting to do more stuff locally with community stuff, and then so I can leave now.
Mhm.
Kind of done what I said. I thought I'd do it in a year, and it took 3 years. And we probably could have done it in a year if it wasn't for the internal kind of politics and trying to slow things down. But we got there, and then so I thought, right, I can leave now. And I went to work for Tech North. So I went to work for the government, which was, I'd missed the kind of community engagement type stuff, and that was the role was community engagement and partnerships manager for the whole of the north of England. So I'm a really proud northerner, right? So even more bigger northeasterner, but like northerner. And so that role was covering Newcastle, Sunderland, Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield and Hull. That was my patch. And the job was basically being the eyes and ears of the team, just getting out and about, finding out where the innovation was happening, encouraging collaboration within cities and between cities, also trying to do a bit of marketing and promotion and media, try to retain talent, attract talent, try to persuade investors to put money into the north, just do anything and everything we could to try and like light fire under this like startup scene and tech scene in the north. So that was great, perfect role for me actually. And then what often happens is funding gets cut and goalposts change, and that's exactly what happened. So I left after about 8 or 9 months and thought, right, I'm going to do it independently. I'm going to do everything I've done up until now, but I'm going to do it independently, not relying on any grants or funding, and I'm going to do it just for the Northeast, which is what I've been doing now. So the last 3 years I've all been doing that. So sorry, that was a bit long, kind of...
That's a great summary.
Okay, there you go.
It is, because that's what it's all about. I mean, all the fascinating twists and turns and pivots and doors opening, doors closing. But you said earlier, Michelle, about the themes that we start to hear of.
Yeah.
You like to help people. You like to create a buzz on social media, getting awareness out of things, creating a buzz in the crowd, being on the mic with your decks. So you can see all these elements building, can't you, over the years, which, I mean, we said we'd get to a point, maybe that's a good segue now into talking about being a SuperConnector, building awareness, connecting people, businesses. There's a lot of elements to that, but
makes sense when you look back. But like
going
forward, there was no plan to it. It was just like opportunities would arise, and it would like, that makes sense to me, and I think I can add value there, and I can learn as well. And I've been thinking about this a lot as well. Like, I think every time you do that, you do have to step out of the norm. You have to do something above and beyond. So the things like teaching myself basic web design in my spare time. No one asked me to do that. I just did it, and then that opened a door or an opportunity to work for British Airways. Then the fact I was DJing, hanging out with DJ producers, doing some club nights, speaking to people online, all that. So I was doing that sort of stuff, and that opened a few doors. And then I got my first record signed. So do you know what? So you have to. I think that's the thing. I think it's obvious to a lot of people, but if you're just sitting there doing the same thing every day, day in, day out, and you're wishing that you could make a change, you're gonna have to maybe work a late night. Go to an event on an evening or a weekend or do something. You can't just sit at home watching telly, feeling fed up with what you're doing. You know, you have to
take action.
Yeah.
That's what Gary Vee always talks about it, doesn't it? He's like, you've got to come home after work, kiss the dog, and then
go to work.
Go out on your side hustle from 6 to 9.
Yeah.
And do something different, whether you're going back to school, whether you're just working on your creative side venture. You, as you say, you can't just sit around and cross your fingers.
No. I mean, I love telly, but I watch next to no telly.
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to work much on a weekend. I try not to work on a weekend. I have done that a lot over the past. But when I worked for corporate, when I worked for Sage, or when I worked for Tech North, I was working pretty much all the time. And another reason why I left Tech North was because I was away sometimes 4 nights a week, and I got a young family. So now I try to limit it to like 1 or 2 nights a week. So usually I would say every week I'm working late, 1 or 2 nights a week. I try not to work on a Friday. I'm just totally knackered. So I don't do anything on a Friday, just with the family. And then Saturday, apart from today where we're recording the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, but this is fun. This is worthwhile. And I'll be taking my daughter to gymnastics later. So like Saturday is family time, Sunday is family time.
Yeah.
Try not to, sometimes I'll do work on a Sunday night. I try not to do that, but during the week, basically I'm in work mode. Monday to Friday I'm in work mode, and I'll usually, there's events, networking events, pretty much every night of the week.
Yeah.
So I'll have to pick which ones to go to, and I'll go to one or two, or I'll be working in the office sometimes till 11 o'clock at night. But it doesn't feel like work though, because it doesn't feel like work, because it's not like I'm just chained to the desk. I'm out and about. I'm making things happen. I'm in interesting conversations. I'm bringing people together. I'm doing all this matchmaking, introduction sort of stuff.
And you're in control.
Yeah, I can decide. If I don't have to do all this other stuff, but I really, really love what I'm doing.
Yes.
And I think I'm adding value. And I think I'm in a good position to do it, and no one else is kind of doing what I'm doing. So, but yeah, two nights a week is usually what I do. And even some nights I'll go home, have tea with my wife and kids, put them to bed, and then I'm regularly working again. Like once they're in bed, and I'm always on my phone, so I'm always doing something.
So what kind of with the kids? If someone was to ask, well, let's say we get the children, we're not going to do a podcast with your children necessarily, but if we were to say to them,
Mine's desperate to do it.
What does your dad do, and does that have an influence on how they view the world and what's possible? And
I hope so. Yeah, I mean that's another thing I want to show both of them. I've got a 9-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. I want to show them both that they can do whatever they want. Like that, I want to set an example to, it's hard. Like, and I'm probably not around as much as they would like me to be sometimes. But like at the same time, they can see that there's exciting things happening. And I think like when you're never that impressed with your parents, are you? Do you know what I mean? But
Oliver is still.
Is he?
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
Totally impressed.
Yeah. It depends.
He's 9 though. He's gonna go Kevin and Perry very soon, isn't he?
Well, it's like my son's really into Fortnite. We were talking before, and like yesterday, there's a friend of mine who's a streamer. He's doing like playing games and streaming it, and Fortnite. And my son's really into Fortnite. So the fact I was with this guy yesterday talking about how we could collaborate on something together, because he understands the gaming world and he's got his own audience there, and we're saying, well, I'm terrible at Fortnite, but maybe me and you could stream something where Lord Lancaster's playing with you, and I can bring my audience to you, and that'd be fun, because I'll be terrible and you're great and you're teaching me, sort of thing. So we're just having fun. So my son's really impressed with that now that I'm
major street cred.
Yeah.
So but when I was at Tech North, I was away like 4 nights a week. So it's better. I'm in more control now, and it's working on things that I want to do.
And I'm sure that comes across, because you could be working in a role where you're away 4 nights a week, you're in a 9 to 5, you hate what you're doing, and that inevitably spills over. Joshua talks about that, doesn't he? Your work-life balance. If you are having problems at work, there's a lot of stress, you bring that home with you. Whereas what it sounds very much to me is you really enjoy what you're doing, and that, I would presume, has a positive effect on your energy and your enthusiasm. Right, we're going to gymnastics later. Can't wait. This is exciting. And that, I think children pick up very much on emotion, and that, Dad must really love what he's doing, because he works so hard to do that. And
well, I think so this week just gone, I was saying before, I think they do. I think they do get that, definitely. But this week I've just had my 15-year-old nephew on work experience with me. So he's had an amazing time. Like, I mean, he's had the VIP treatment. We've been based over in Proto, which is a new centre on the gated side of the river, which is all VR, AR, immersive technology. So you arrive there, and it's like hot desking, co-working, and managed office space. Coolest, like really cool building. He had no concept of that was even a thing. He'd never heard of hot desking or co-working, that collaborative environment. He got the VIP treatment with all the headsets, like 15 grand, 20 grand headsets, photogrammetry room where you'll stand or sit in a room, and they'll press a button, it'll take all these hundreds of cameras will go off at the same time. Then they've got a 360-degree image of that person, which they can then turn into actual physical objects.
Brilliant.
Or put into digital objects. So his mind's just totally blown about what you can do with that. Motion capture sensors, so in big rooms, so you can move around, and then they'll capture that and put that into film or video. He's been hanging out with a guy called Dave Black, who does like immersive sound and immersive experiences with sound and touch and smell even. So it's kind of like a theatrical. He's done this theatrical production where it's like a dreamlike sequence, and you can have really good dreams or like scary dreams, and then there's one where you wake up and you think you've died, and you can feel someone chucking soil on you, like they're burying you, and all this weird stuff. But then he did something recently with Prince William, opened the centre, and there's a great video of Prince William coming in. He's sat there with a headset on, and he's in an orchestra. So you can see an orchestra all around him, and then they've surrounded him with speakers, so it feels he's got the. Fantastic. So my nephew Will, who like, that's just for him. That's just really fired him up and excited him about what's possible. Hanging out with people who are running drone companies. You name it. He's met some mayoral candidates this week.
Yes, we hear all about that.
So he's really, and he was great as well, because I got him doing a blog as well. So there's a blog that we're gonna publish about his experiences as well. So he's been learning how to do blogging, using the latest technology and stuff. So yeah,
it's been a good weekend, hasn't it?
No.
So talk to us about Startup Week.
Yeah, well, you've obviously been, and you've been a speaker.
Twice, yeah.
So basically, everything I said that I've done up until this point, I'm doing everything I can to try and help people start or grow a business or find the help or support that they need. But I know where to find this information, because I've been in that world for a long time. I've read all the books. I've been in all the networks. But most people just don't know where to go. It's overwhelming. They don't know where to start, and it's off-putting when there's too many choices. So I thought, well, okay, why don't I use my network, pull together an event, a 5-day event that's going to put everything on a plate, make it easy as possible for people to get all the help, advice, support, ready-made community that they can tap into at whatever stage they're at, and put it on. So 5-day event, started with Newcastle Startup Week. First one we did it in 2017, and we had just over 600 people came to that. And then we did it again last year, again just over 600 people. And then we're doing it again this May on the 13th to the 17th of May. And if things keep going the way they're going, I've got a target of 750 people. So I think we're going to get 750 people, maybe more. Each day's got a different theme. Day one is Inspiration Day, so that's all about G'ing people up, inspiring people, celebrating local success stories of the past, present and future, showing people that you can do it, that there's people just like you who've done it, they're just a little bit further on, so people who look and sound like you. Because I think a lot of events, they'll fly in all these amazing people from around the world, and they're entertaining, like Richard Branson or whatever. But then
unobtainable.
And if you're not careful, it reinforces the feeling that to be successful, you've got to come from somewhere else. So we're the opposite, where like we have over 60 speakers, and there's only about 4 or 5 that aren't from the region. Everyone else is local. They're from across the northeast. I think that's important, and people seem to like that. Inspiration people is G'ing people up, getting people started, and it's on that day we have about 400 people come to the boiler shop, which is behind the train station, and that's very symbolic as well, because that was George and Robert Stevenson's old factory. So the grandfathers of the railway, the beginning of the railway industry and the industrial revolution. We're trying to kickstart a new entrepreneurial revolution. It's very symbolic. That's day one. Day two is getting started, so practical first steps to getting started, bring your ideas to life. Day 3 is funding and finance. So if you need any money to start or grow a business, that's the day you will go to. Day 4 is scale up. So how do you take things to the next level, whatever level that is, what's required. And then the final day is keep going or pivot. So how do you keep going? Do you keep going? Do you stop? Do you change direction? Basically, how do you survive and thrive beyond the starter phase? Because I think there's a lot of focus on starting up, but then it's like, all right, off you go. Well done. You've started a business now. And then there's a lot of focus on scale up. But scale up, the official definition of a scale up is 10 employees or more that's been grown by 20% every year for 3 years. Well, that's a very small, I think it's like close to 99% of all British businesses are like micro, like 0 to 9. So, and some people never want to get beyond that, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can have a really good life, successful business, making good money for everyone, less than 9 employees. But there is a gap there, I think, for survive and thrive. So that's what I'm working on now, is how great a Startup Week is. Like, it's only once a year, so how do we support people all year round? So I've got a couple of things that I'm going to launch soon on that.
So you also do Founders Friday?
Yeah, so Founders Friday is kind of related to that, actually. Is after the second event, thought another successful event, and I thought, well, okay, people are G'd up, they're excited, they're ready to go, but then they go back to work on the Monday, or they go back to their everyday life, and it gets hard again. So how do we keep that momentum going? So we've created these free events on the last Friday of every month called Founders Friday, and basically it's just something people can check in on it. They don't have to come; it's totally optional. But we're getting about 80 to 100 people coming every month. Slightly different audience every month as well. And the format's working really well, in that we're doing 9 till 10. People are just arriving and networking and chatting, and some people just want to get away from home or away from a change of scenery, just do a bit of hot desking. But 10 till 11 we do what's called an insights briefing, and that's usually me and 3 other people talking about opportunities, like what's going on in the city and the region and further afield that we know about that they might not know about. And people are finding that really useful, not just businesses, but business advisors, investors, public sector, who wouldn't otherwise know about it. And we're getting people travelling from Manchester and Edinburgh and Leeds coming to that and speaking at that. And it's people from across the northeast are speaking at that as well, so it's not just Newcastle. Then the next hour from 11:30 till 12:30 is a startup show and tell. So we'll get 4 new businesses, just say, this is who we are, this is what we do, what do you think? Anyone got any ideas? Dead informal. Then we'll have a lunch, which is paid for by a sponsor, and we'll always use local independent businesses for that. So we're giving them an opportunity. And then the afternoon is masterclasses and Q&As. So that's aimed at the business founders themselves. So it's like probably less exciting, but the things like sales, marketing, legal agreements, shareholders agreements, recruitment, accountancy, but anything that's going to help them like grow their business and get better at what they do. So yeah, they're working really well. So they're definitely providing like an ongoing thing, that keeping the momentum going, and they're also helping to feed into this year's event. So, but there's another thing I'm just about to launch, which is an actual underlying software platform that's basically going to do everything that I do and Startup Week is, but it's going to be like a SuperConnector platform that's going to speed up the process from idea to launch to growth and investment all year round that people can be part of.
That's so cool.
That does sound cool.
You heard it here first.
Excellent.
So we're talking, it's a SuperConnector.
Wow. So you are busy.
Yeah, very busy. But just on that, I don't know how much time we've gone on, but basically the SuperConnector, I'll just quickly talk about that, is that where that came from. When I was working for LiveWIRE, I read a book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And in that he talks about why some ideas are really successful and others aren't. And sometimes the best ideas don't succeed. And he talks in there how you normally need 3 types of people. You need what are called mavens, so people who just love finding out about new things. They're just hungry for new ideas, and they get a kick out finding out about new things. Then you have what you call connectors. And a connector, once they know about something, they won't just tell 1 or 2 people, which most people do, and even most people don't even do that a lot of time. A connector will actively think, who do I know that would benefit from this? And then they'll go out of their way to try and bring those people together. And then and they might even like go through their phone book and spend a lot of time doing it for no reason other than they just like doing that. They like bringing these people together. And then you have what you call sales people, but really it's like sales and marketing. So you need people who then keep pushing it and promoting it to as many people as possible. So I remember reading that at the time thinking, I think I'm a maven, and I also think I'm a good connector, and I think I'm pretty good at marketing as well. So I'm going to try and be the best of all three that I can be. So I'm going to be a super connector. So that's basically what I've been trying to do since 2011. So it's like, 8 years now of trying to be the best at those three things I could be, using online and offline networks. And that's basically what I do now, is like all day, every day. So when I started my own business just under 3 years ago, you announce that you're starting a business, but what is it that you do? Well, there's loads of consultants, there's loads of freelancers, but what can I do that no one else can do? And the thing that I've got, that my superpower, I think, is being a super connector and leveraging my network in a way that benefits everyone around me. So so I'm going to do more on this, because I think there are super connectors all over the place. They might not know they are, but with a bit of support or like a bit of bit of help, there could be bigger, better super connector. And what we need lots of super connectors. We don't just need me being the only super connector. So if I can help show other people how to do what I do, that'd be great. That's the plan.
Super connector network of super connectors.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the ripple effect.
Exactly.
Excellent. So I think do we know enough? Is there anything else we need to know about you, Paul?
I don't know. Well, I've just been doing all the talking. I mean, is there anything have you got any questions that you want to, burning questions?
You mentioned mayoral candidates. So you teased us not that long ago about you potentially becoming the mayor of the north of the Tyne or whatever it is. So that was, that sounds like fun. We'd totally vote for him. So what's the story?
So, I'm assuming this is going to go out before the election yet. So there's basically, right, for anyone that doesn't know, you've got devolution happening at the minute, right? So you've already got the mayor of London. You've also got the mayor of Greater Manchester. You've got a mayor of Liverpool. You've got a mayor of Birmingham, and you've got a mayor of Teesside. So it used to be the northeastern Teesside, but the Teesside, politically, Teesside has broken away from northeast, right? And then the northeast has been told by central government, look, you can have devolution, you can have more money, more decision-making power, more autonomy over your budget when it comes to education, healthcare and business. So you can have more money to spend on those things, and you can decide where that money goes, right? But the condition is you elect a mayor that's going to represent you. And why they're doing that is like it's easier for them to deal with one person than 7 or more, right? Because there's 7 councils in the northeast.
Yep.
So it kind of makes sense. I know why they're doing it. But then what you get is a lot of Labour people think, well, we're suspicious because it's the Tories doing it. We don't trust them, right? Because for years and years people are saying we want devolution, and then it's like, well, you can have it. Oh, hang on. There must be a catch, right? So I kind of understand both sides of it, but it's an opportunity, right? And other regions like Greater Manchester, they're running with it and they're really benefiting from having this devolution. So I think it is a massive opportunity for the northeast. But then what's happened is they had a vote. They were going to have devolution. Then they decided they weren't going to do it. They weren't happy with the deal. And then they had another vote, and the 3 councils north of the river voted for it, and the 4 south of the river voted against it. So you've now got another split within the northeast. So you've now got, there's going to be a mayor of the north of Tyne. So the north of Tyne is Newcastle, North Tyneside, Northumberland. Okay, so it's all the land between the River Tyne all the way up to the borders is going to be its own combined authority. You're still going to have Newcastle Council, North Tyneside Council, Northumberland, but collectively they're going to be known as the North of Tyne Combined Authority with additional budget and autonomy. And the door is open that Gateshead, South Tyneside, Sunderland, Durham can join at a future date, but for now,
just watching and waiting.
Yeah. So I think it's a massive opportunity. There's what's happened is the Labour Labour guys. There was 5 people up for nomination for Labour.
Mm-hmm.
There was the leader of the council, who I think was the favourite for a lot of people, but within the party they decided there was another guy called Jamie Driscoll.
Mm-hmm.
They've put him forward, and he's got some really good ideas actually, but he is quite far left. He's very far left. He's like the momentum-backed candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the Labour candidate, and then Conservative. Conservative, they've just decided that they're going to put forward a guy called Charlie Holt.
Is it? Yeah.
And so he's an entrepreneur, businessman. So they put him forward. Liberal Democrats have put forward a guy called John Appleby, who's an academic at Newcastle Uni, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's at one of the universities, I can't remember which one. Again, sensible, good ideas. I mean, they've all could be good, right, in their own way, right?
Mm.
But then I actually personally think the mayor should be independent. I think they shouldn't be too far left or too far right. The councils can do that. The political parties can do what they do. But the mayor should represent everyone equally. So it shouldn't be towing the party line, dictated to by Labour or Conservative or Liberal. Should be doing what's best for the region, and someone who has a proven track record of being able to work with all these different groups.
Mm-hmm.
So there's currently 2 independents have come forward. There's a guy called John McCabe, who up until recently I didn't know. I met him recently. I really like him. He's got some good ideas. He's got his own PR company in Blythe, and until recently he was the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. So he's good. He's got a lot of support behind him. But my personal preference is a guy called Ammar Mirza.
Mm-hmm.
So Ammar Mirza is an independent. He's from he had quite a tough upbringing, and he's like a self-made man. He's a very successful entrepreneur, businessman, but he also does loads of work for charities, schools. He runs Asian Business Connections. He's got the whole Asian business community behind him. He's works with the non-Asian business community, connecting the groups together. He's on every board you can imagine. He works for the councils, the local enterprise partnership. He's got the armed forces behind him. Mm. He's got a proven track record of someone who his whole ethos is collaboration and inclusivity. Mm. So just from my experience, what I've seen and his track record, he's not someone who's just come out of nowhere. He's been doing it for 20 odd years. Yeah. I get on really well with him. I like what he's all about, and so he announced he was going to run as an independent months ago, and then I've been saying, look, if you need any help, so we've been talking about his campaign, and then we met a few weeks ago to talk about what he might need to do to win, and he asked me if I would consider running with his support by me. So that kind of caught me by surprise a bit, because that's not what and at first I said, well, that's a stupid idea. No, I'm not going to do it. But then, this is what you got to be careful of. Ego, when people are flattering you and stuff, I was like, oh, maybe I could, because I do have a good network, I have got a track record. So anyway, you kept asking me. By the time I got home, I was like, yeah, maybe I could do it. And then I told my wife, she was like, what a stupid idea, forget it. So I was like, yeah, you're right. So she's really good at keeping my feet on the ground. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to support you. I'll work with you. But then he kept asking, and a few other people have been asking. So I was seriously considering it. So I put something out there just to say, look, I'm seriously considering it. Mm. And I have had a lot of really, really positive, fantastic comments of support. But that's not the same as votes and not the same as winning. And the timing's not right for me. I've got other things that I want to do, and I think I can add a lot of value, more kind of alongside Ammar behind the scenes, or whoever is put forward as the independent candidate. Yeah. And so maybe next time, which is in 5 years' time.
Ooh, watch his face.
Yeah, but for now, I'm not going to run as the mayor.
Excellent.
Because Ammar founded Pipe Project, wasn't it? So I think podcast 4, we're talking to Chris Beavers. So there's a nice element there of taking, I'm trying to think what it stands for now. It's innovation taking into primary schools and bringing out those commercial skills for children to take a bit of money, turn it into a little business and grow it and make some profits. And that all feeds into this thinking of connecting others, inspiring them to to take some action, and I guess bring out the entrepreneurs that want to set up businesses. So.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I went to the celebration event after the Pie project, and the school that won took their £100 seed money and made it into a couple of grand. And I was like,
well
should we hire these people now? Never mind your GCSEs, literally 11-year-olds. They did so well. And all the other schools, it was so inspiring. So I'm currently talking to my little boy's school about getting a project started with those guys as well.
Very good. Yeah. Well, just anything that, we just, I think me and Am are very similar. We just found out, actually, we're both Pisces.
Oh.
And so
I'm a psychologist. No,
I was just about to say horoscopes and Michelle.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
Bad thing.
Why is it bad?
Because it's not true.
Why?
It's not scientifically
all right.
proven.
Okay, yeah.
You can't. Anyway, I'm not going to go into a rant.
I think you just read it, you believe in it, don't you? But that, But that.
I'm Aquarius, in case you're.
But you know what though? Like, whether it's true or not, if you read it, you read into it what you want, right? So if you already have that inner narrative that's saying, I like helping people, I've got empathy and all this, and I'm creative and whatever. If you already want to be that person, and then you read something that says, as a Pisces, this is what you are, it's like, oh, great. Like, so it is true, then I am that. And then, I know, but it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like self-reinforcing. So if I'd read something that was like, oh, you're a terrible person, and you're like really with it, who knows?
I think they write them all to be nice and positive.
Probably.
And most people can identify with a lot of the stuff.
But that though, I've been thinking about this as well, like books, talked about Tipping Point and stuff, right? I've got all these books that I've read, like we're all a result of all the experiences we've had, all the decisions we've made, right? So I've been thinking a lot about the books that I've read. If someone else read those same books, would they kind of be where they wouldn't be? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like the environment I'm in. But can you, like, if I was reading some totally different books, whatever, do you know what I mean? I think you are the product of your environment, the people around you, the books you read, the films you watch, the TV, the conversations you have with people. So
and the mindset you adopt as well.
So there is a lot of people talk about, if you surround yourself with other entrepreneurs, creative thinkers, you're gonna. But if you're surrounded by really negative people who are telling you can't do things all the time,
you believe it.
You're going to believe it. So Gary Vaynerchuk and all these other guys talk about cutting people out of your life. They're saying, look, if you've got that one person that's always bringing you down, they're always like telling you can't do something. It's hard, but you sometimes have to just cut them out of your life, or you just have to become like bulletproof and just not like let them have the say, but actually just make sure that you're not taking that in, and you're surrounding yourself with. So you're going to events like Startup Week, you're going to things like Founders Friday, you're listening to podcasts like this, you're reading books that are gonna change the inner narrative that you've got going on in your head.
I find those people really motivating. You can't do it.
Well,
watch me.
Well, yeah. Well, it's true. It's true because like even when I work for Sage, having people saying, no, you can't. That's not the way to do things. Only you can't do that. And I was laughing when Sam was giving his Be More Pirate talk that you organised, when he was saying when people say no, that you think, so that means yes.
Go.
So,
no is
go, yeah.
So I had to have a chat with him afterwards about, the whole kind of consent thing. But,
he did qualify that. But yeah, I think I've got that, or I've had that, but I only had that when I worked for Sage because I was a bit older and more experienced, and I had the confidence that I was doing the right thing and I was doing what ultimately was good for them. And I've got quite thick skin and quite resilient, and actually I don't really care. Like if I know that it's the right thing, talking about the good trouble, I know that if it's the right thing, even if it means I'm going to get some flack, I'll do it. Because I just thought, well, what's the worst thing going to happen? They're going to sack me, so what? I'll just go back to what I was doing. I'll just find something else. But I think if you're not, that's easy to say. Not everyone can do that, but I just believed that it was the right thing. But if you're just starting out and you're nervous about, you don't, this job's really important, and you're trying to climb the ladder and whatever, you don't want to rock the boat. But there's loads of people who do that, and they're just trying to climb the ladder. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to make a decision. They don't want to be brave. They don't want to do all this sort of stuff. And then they still get the sack.
Yep.
So, you know, they get made redundant, and then why are they?
And they haven't learnt the resilience and the ability to pivot and adapt and change and be flexible as well. So
yeah,
it's scary. Okay, I think on that note, I just wanted to say thank you ever so much for coming in today. It's been a really interesting chat.
Because, and if that's been an inspiration, which it has to us, so I'm sure it will for our listeners, if you want to find out more about Startup Week or Lord Lancaster, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, well, the best place for Startup Week is just newcastlestartupweek.com.
Okay.
All the info's on there, or at NCL Startup Week on Twitter. And I'm just on Lord Lancaster, so on Twitter. So follow me, and I'm all day, every day, I'm sharing information, opportunities for new and startups and new and growing businesses across the Northeast.
And if you need a lovely retweet, what's your hashtag?
Yeah, so that's another thing that I created a couple of years ago called This Is Mine. So the hashtag This Is Mine, and what it means, what it stands for is Made in Northeast.
Yep.
So this is mine, and it's where that came about. I was in, again, loads of meetings and events where people saying, "Oh, we've got so much great stuff going on here, but nobody knows about it. How do we collectively promote it? And we're not very good about shouting how great we are. And does anyone remember passionate people, passionate places from years ago?"
Oh, yes.
And that was good, right? But it could have been anywhere. There's passionate people everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I think what that was good at was instilling a bit of pride locally, right? Making people locally feel good, but it had next to no impact on the national perspective of what the Northeast is all about, because it was all about galloping horses along beaches and kind of castles and bridges and stuff like that, right? But yeah, it is beautiful, right? But there is something online you can read. They did a review where they spent £15 million on that campaign, and the report says there was no positive impact on the economy as a result of that. So it's like, right, okay. So how do we come up with something different that's like more not imposed from the top? It's more grassroots, community driven, and it's really difficult to come up with something that feels like it belongs to everyone, and also that it's not too Newcastle's focused and it's not too sector specific. So This Is Mine is like, kind of like, this is mine, this belongs to me, I'm proud of this, this is who we are, this is of the region. It's made in Northeast, and also there's the mining connotations as well. So I think it works really, really well, right? And then, so I started using it, a few of my friends started using it, and then other organisations have kind of adopted it. So all day, every day, people are using This Is Mine as a hashtag. And what I do, I've made a personal commitment. Every day I go on, see who's using it, and I like and retweet every single tweet to my 10,600 followers and 2,500 followers on Plan Digital. So someone who's maybe only got 100 followers on Twitter, they're now reaching 10,500 followers. I'm kind of giving them a bit of a leg up.
Yes.
And it's working, like I say, because I came up with it, but it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to everyone. So I've said that from the start. I'm kind of policing it, and then I'm making sure people are doing it in the right way. So it's all, if anyone does it, posts a positive tweet about the Northeast, I'll retweet it, and it is all positive. So 2 ways of using it. If anyone wants to see what's going on, they just search for the hashtag, and they'll see all the amazing stuff going on. Or if they want to promote what they're doing, just include This Is Mine at the end of their tweets, and I'll guarantee to retweet it to all my followers.
Cool.
That's great, isn't it? Yeah.
So thank you ever so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Making a massive impact, I think, in the Northeast. So it's great.
Trying to make a few ripples.
Yeah. Lovely. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Have a good day.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode, when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.